comments. Who here has texted and drove? Okay, a few of us. If you don't drive, have you personally seen someone that has texted and drove or used their phone? Could you raise your hand? Okay, so a few people. In 2017, the National Safety Council reports that cell phone use while driving leads to 1.6 million crashes each year. Nearly 390,000 injuries occur from these accidents caused by texting while driving. Today I'm going to talk to you about the dangers of careless driving. This topic is important to focus on because so many people do it without realizing the dangers that can cause to themselves or others. Whether you're driving yourself or you take the bus, public transportation, there's something that can impact everybody's life every day. I have recently lost my 19-year-old sister due to her texting and driving over the speed limit, which she was driving over 80 miles an hour, and she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. This is actually the freeway that, it's called Highway 41. And the day that it happened, she was just leaving school, and she had to pay her car payment, and it was like last year on March, there was like 3 days of like rainy days, and so she drove very fast down this 2-lane highway, and like I said, she wasn't wearing her seatbelt, she was texting, so it was a bunch of different reasons, and she's also 19, and I believe someone did a speech earlier about maybe the cognitive abilities of younger brains, you know, and so since that day, it has been a year, and I feel the need to advocate for her, just so no one else can go through what me and my family went through. Maybe it will resonate in your mind and make you think about how we are not indestructible. Today, I will talk about the dangers of erratic driving and why you should take steps to avoid it. I also will do so by focusing on the hazards of texting and driving over the safe speed limit, and why you should always wear your seatbelt. Since cell phones came out, using them in the car has been maybe a popular thing, whether it's doing GPS or maps or just taking selfies. Sometimes people do that all the time. But a lot of fatal accidents have happened because of it. And it's even actually recently, more and more younger people have been getting into car accidents or fatalities. In the court case, the People versus Deborah Mittising in the Court of Appeals of California, filed July 8, 2011, it states that a jury found the defendant, Deborah Ann, guilty of vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence. The court sentenced her to upper term of 6 years in prison, which, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it might not be a lot because someone did die. What happened was Deborah was driving on a 2-lane highway, similar to the one that my sister was driving on. It only goes this far that way. And she was driving very fast, over 65 miles an hour. And she witnesses said that they reported her looking at her phone constantly, but they actually found out evidence that she was not just texting and driving, she was checking her bank account balance, which, you know, that takes a long time. And she was also making phone calls and things like that. And so the traffic stopped in front of her, and she hit elderly woman in front of her car, going like over 65 miles an hour, and the car crashed, or the car bursted into flames. And the woman could not get out, and so she died. And I don't think it was a very fast death because you all know, like, someone burning doesn't feel very good. So that woman, like I said, she got 6 years in prison. It only takes a few seconds to look down at a screen, but it can cost someone their life or yours. Not everyone who drives distracted will get into a car crash, but it's still very dangerous. I actually recently met someone who goes to COC, and he did say he also had a friend that was 19 that died from a drunk driver hitting him. It wasn't even his fault. He was just driving at night, and he was going off I think it's Old Mill Road or Old Road or something, and he crashed into him and killed. They both died. So it's just maybe distracted driving in all different senses. Now that we have gone over distracted driving, let's start talking about the dangers of speeding. Many people driving over the speed limit are speed in general because no cops are around. While living in Los Angeles, the traffic doesn't help either. Why do people speed? I mean, is it to get there faster? What would 5 to 15 minutes really do? You know, unless you're actually going to work where it matters, it would be more important that you get there alive rather than get there 1 or 2 minutes early. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation in 2017, they said that decisions errors such as driving too fast for conditions, too fast for the curve, or false assumptions or other actions, illegal maneuvers, and misjudgment of gaps or other speed account for about 33% of the crashes. I found out later that my sister actually had 3 speeding tickets in the same month that she passed away. It's sad to say that that's the truth, but my father did say she had to still get to work and school, and it's just a part of life, but the thing is, there was things leading up to that, and I don't live that close to her. They live up on the Central Coast, and I did not know until later. In the court case with Eric Chapman versus Randy Tolo, the Court of Appeals of California filed December 20, 2011. Tolo was found guilty of reckless driving and speeding that could have cost someone's life. And he was racing with 3 other friends. There was 1 car and 3 other cars with him. They were going very fast on like a big highway, and he actually was swerving in and out of lanes and crashed into the center divider, perpendicular to the center divider. So if you know what that means, that was blocking the fast lane. He did not put on his lights because it was at nighttime, and he just ran across the street to wait for someone. And the defendant, I believe it's Eric, he crashed into him very fast. Luckily, he did not pass away, but he sustained very horrible injuries, and of course his car was totaled. They actually awarded him $1.8 million in, I don't know if it's called casualties, but yeah, it says, let me see, I pretty much summed it up. They ended up, and one bad decision made a driver could have costed another person's life or for no reason at all besides that he wanted to speed with friends. I just talked to you about texting and driving and the dangers associated with reckless speeding. Now I'll talk to you about why seatbelts are important. Seatbelts have not always been around. They actually were not around until before 1968. All the old-fashioned cars that you guys might have known about, none of them actually have seatbelts in them. And it wasn't until 1968 from the Motor Vehicle Safety Standard that made them requirements in all cars except buses, if you haven't noticed. You should always wear a seatbelt because it is the safe thing to do. This might be too much information, but my father did say my sister had very big boobs. She had double D's, and so he said that it was very uncomfortable for her to wear the seatbelt. And that could be the case, but I felt like maybe she just might have not thought that it was cool or that she just didn't like it. She did also say YOLO a lot, which means you only live once. And she was a smart girl, but it could have been the media or her friends or just other factors as to why she didn't wear her seatbelt. In the journal Accident Analysis and Prevention, issued September 1999 by author Dina Shin, stated that specifically inner youth city were more likely to agree with this statement. There is no point in wearing seatbelts since you have no control over your fate or destiny. While my family, on the other hand, lives by a quiet town in Morro Bay, California, it's not inner city, but youth everywhere can feel the same way. I just talked to you about the hazards of texting and driving over the safe speed limit, and why you should always wear a seatbelt. I did so by talking to you about the dangers of erratic driving. I am not a perfect person and have made mistakes also while I drive. I can't judge anyone on their actions, but because we are all human. But we can grow and inform others, which that's what I'm trying to do. With that being said, everyone can make a difference. Even my 3-year-old daughter tells me to put on my seatbelt every single time we get in the car. It's not up to me to change your mind. I'm sure we all want to live. If you take anything away from my speech, at least think twice before you speed. Pull over if you really need to text or call someone. And I repeat, always, always wear a seatbelt. Someone in your life will truly miss you if you don't.